Its symptoms are madness, caused by the music in his head, sung by an endless choir called the Voice of the Dead.
I've been around the country wide, and I've learned a thing or two. If you've got a man you want to keep for yourself, here's my advice to you. Don't worry about strangers, keep your eye on your best friend. Don't worry about strangers, keep your eye on your best friends. All's fair in love and war, and that's where friendship ends. I had a girlfriend, her name was Lil. I had a sweet guy, his name was Bill. Told Lil about Bill and Bill about Lil. Lil took my bill and went over the hill. I had a good friend I'd trust with my life. She was always beside me in sorrow and strife. No wonder she was with me through sorrow and strife. Found out that gal was my John's other wife. Don't worry about strangers, keep your eye on your best friends. Don't worry about strangers, keep your eye on your best friends. All's fair in love and war, and that's where friendship ends. I had a girlfriend when I lived in Chi. They used to go out with me and my guy. She loved to dance and I said, go ahead. Now my guy in Chi goes with her instead. I don't trust your guy to take her home alone. Don't let her talk to him on the phone. Don't let your guy and her read the same books. And no, don't let him find out how good she can cook. You can barricade the windows and seal them tight. You can lock them in the closet every night. When the doorbell rings, you can peep through the crack. But while you're guarding the front, she'll sneak into the back. Don't worry, worry, worry about a stranger. Keep your eye on your friends. Don't worry, worry, worry about a stranger. Keep your eye on your friends. All's fair in love and war, and that's where friendship ends.
Going all the way back to 1947 with the Andrews Sisters and their rendition of Phil Moore's Don't Worry About Strangers, accompanied, of course, by Vic Schoen and his orchestra. Victor Vic Schoen, born March 26, 1916, was an American bandleader, arranger, and composer whose career spanned from the 1930s until his, I'm going to assume, unremarkable death in 2000. In his time, he furnished music for some of the most successful persons in show business, including Louis Prima, Carmen Miranda, and Tommy Dorsey, to name a few, but is probably best remembered as the musical director and arranger for the Andrews Sisters, whom Schoen met while playing trumpet in Leon Belasco's Society Orchestra in 1936. You're listening to the Wax Mausoleum here on Grimsfield After Dark, broadcasting from dusk till dawn from our studios high atop Mount Badenoch. I'm your host, Ursula Ascania, and for the next 30 minutes or thereabouts, I'll be playing you a selection of easy listening from a bygone era. We're going to stick with the Decca label for our next selection as well. Established in 1929 in England by one Edward Lewis, by 1934 an American arm of the company had also been established by Lewis, Jack Kapp, and Milton Rackmill, who both served as presidents of the American arm of the company in turn. Before things went completely sour in Europe, Nazi aggression, in 1937, Lewis sold off the American Decca, and the two labels went their separate ways for several decades. The British label focused more on the development of recording methods, while the American label got to do all the fun stuff, like develop the concept of original cast recordings, like this one. Give My Regards to Broadway is just one of the many classics featured in the 1949 film Jolson Sings Again. Although the role of Al Jolson was portrayed by Larry Parks in the film, Jolson still got to lend his voice to the soundtrack. This George M. Cohan number, written for his 1904 play entitled Little Johnny Jones, has been presented numerous times over the years by the likes of Bing Crosby, James Cagney, and Orlando Manuela, who famously died while performing the number when he was gored by a goat that escaped from backstage at the Purple Pussy Showroom and Lounge here in Grimsfield. However, it's Al's effort here that has always been dear to me. So without further ado, Al Jolson with the Lee Gordon Singers and Morris Stoloff and his orchestra performing George M. Cohan's Give My Regards to Broadway.
Give my regards to Broadway, remember me to Herald Square. Tell all the gang at 42nd Street that I will soon be there. Whisper of how I'm yearning to mingle with the old-time throng. Give my regards to old Broadway and say that I'll be there ere long.
Did you ever see two Yankees part upon a foreign shore? When the good ship's just about to start for old New York once more. With tear-dimmed eye they say goodbye, they're friends without a doubt. When the man on the pier shouts let them clear as the ship rides out.
Give my regards to Broadway, remember me to Herald Square. Tell all the gang at 42nd Street that I will soon be there. Whisper of how I'm yearning to mingle with the old-time throng. Give my regards to old Broadway and say that I'll be there ere long. Give my regards to Broadway, remember me to Herald Square. Tell all the gang at 42nd Street that I will soon be there. Whisper of how I'm yearning to mingle with the old-time throng. Give my regards to old Broadway and say that I'll be there ere long.
The only reason I'm going to play the B-side of this RCA Victor label release is because the A-side is in such disrepair. As my longtime listeners are probably aware, many of the 78s featured on this program are original releases, and as one can imagine, the years have not been too kind. A little something from the late great Tommy Dorsey and the Clambake 7. Don't be a baby, baby.
But if you have to, baby, go ahead and have your cry. I'll be your baby, baby, truer than the one you knew. And someday maybe, baby, you will learn to love me too.
Once again, that was Tommy Dorsey and the Clambake 7 with Don't Be a Baby, Baby. The vocal refrain was of course provided by Cy Oliver, who after leaving Dorsey went on to be a successful freelance arranger and was a musical director for Decca Records for some time, even providing arrangements for the chairman of the board himself, Frank Sinatra. We need to take a moment now to hear from our sponsor and for station identification, but we'll be right back to spin some more treasures from the vault for you.
When my husband, or for that matter, any man in my life feels my nylons, the last thing I'd want is for them to think of sandpaper. That's why I always wash my nylons and dainties in Sasso-Mat soap. Sasso-Mat soap is treated with natural additives and always leaves your laundry fresh, and your skin won't suffer for it. Whether it's nightwear, wool, or 100% virgin acrylic, Sasso-Mat soap is the soap for you.
You're listening to CGRM, Grimsfield's only choice.
The Victor Talking Machine Company was officially incorporated in 1901, and by the 1920s the Victrola was by far the most popular type of home phonograph, selling in great numbers into the 30s. Of course, the Victor recording label was happy to provide content for this delightful new invention and issued recordings by hundreds of artists from across a wide variety of genres. Luckily for us, this Roger Wolfe Kahn and Al Dubin composition was one of them. All by My Ownsome was released as the B-side of another delightful foxtrot, My Blue Heaven, recorded by Paul Whiteman and his orchestra, but All by My Ownsome has always been my favorite. If you've seen Kahn on the cover of the September edition of Time magazine in 1927, you could hardly blame me for being drawn to his music. He's adorable. Mind you, he's almost certainly dead by now, but you can't blame a girl for dreaming. By the way, the vocal refrain of All by My Ownsome was performed by Franklin Bauer, who at one point in the 1920s was the highest salaried ballad singer on the radio. However, by 1931 his career was well in decline, and by 1950, at the tender age of 47, he was dead. I suppose hearing Cy Oliver earlier made me think of another smooth-sounding and charming jazz vocalist by the name of Nat King Cole, which prompted me to dust off my next selection for you. Not much can be said about Nat King Cole that hasn't been said before. Born Nathaniel Adams Coles, March 17, 1919, I think that makes him a Pisces, in Montgomery, Alabama, Nat learned the organ from his mother Perlina, who played for the church his father ministered, and at 15 years of age dropped out of school to start the Eddie Cole Swingsters with his brother Eddie, who was an accomplished musician in his own right. The rest, as they say, is history. In his final television appearance on The Jack Benny Show in 1964, before his death in 65, he was introduced as the best friend a song ever had. This track is certainly testament to that truth. Recorded in 1946 for Capitol Records, King Cole with Orchestra, under the direction of Frank Duvall, performing the timeless Eden Abes classic, Nature Boy. Enjoy.
There was a boy, a very strange, enchanted boy. They say he wandered very far over land and sea. A little shy and sad of eye, but very wise was he. And then one day, a magic day, he passed my way. And while we spoke of many things, fools and kings, this he said to me: the greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. The greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return.
Well, that's all the time we have for tonight's show. Thanks again for tuning in, and I hope you'll join me again next week for another selection of favorites from the vaults. I feel a tad guilty leaving you on such a melancholy note, so before I sign off, I'll leave you with something fun to take you into Gruesome Fables feature, up next on Grimsfield After Dark. I'm your host, Ursula Ascania. This has been the Wax Mausoleum, and this is May Williams, accompanied by Bill Heathcock and his orchestra, with this delicious toe tapper, Pizza Polka.
Mamma mia,
take me to the pizzeria. Mama, mamma mia, buy a pizza pie for me. Mama, mamma mia, how I love the pizzeria. Mama, mamma mia, buy a pizza pie for me. I like cannoli and ravioli, and for spaghetti you will always find me ready. Give me linguine and scallopini. I like lasagna, though it always splashes on ya. Though I adore chicken cacciatore, mama, buy a pizza pie for me. Mama, mamma mia, take me to the pizzeria. Mama, mamma mia, buy a pizza pie for me. Mama, mamma mia, how I love the pizzeria. Mama, mamma mia, buy a pizza pie for me. I like spumoni.
Yeah.
Or macaroni.
Yeah?
I like some spaghettini alla tetrazzino.
Oh, yeah.
A glass of vino.
Yeah.
With Angelino.
Yeah?
Yeah, or bella, 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 bella mozzarella. Mm-hmm. Hey, well, yo! Get it out now. Mama, 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 buy a pizza pie for me. Mama, mamma mia, take me to the pizzeria. Mama, mamma mia, buy a pizza pie for me. Oh, mama, I'm crazy for a pizza. Mama, mamma mia, buy a pizza pie for me.
You're listening to CGRM, Grimsfield's only choice.